Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskar. You have stepped into a course that is going to change the way that you look at data. Not just how you analyze it, but also how you communicate it. My name is Nivid Desai. I serve as the Program Executive at Writing Studio IIT Gandhinagar. Welcome to Writing for Data Science. This course is at the intersection of analysis and communication. As all of us know, data analysis is not just about coding and models. It is about solving real-world problems. And that is exactly why every single thought that goes into solving those problems needs to be communicated. And not just to one audience, across multiple stakeholders. That is where this course comes in. This course prepares you with the foundations of writing, especially curated for data science. We will discuss audience analysis, critical thinking, logical reasoning, as well as storytelling that is native to data science. So join me on a journey at the intersection of numbers and narratives. I'll see you in class. Namaskar, hello and welcome to Writing for Data Science. My name is Nivid Desai and we are on a journey of exploring the interesting intersections of numbers and narratives. In the previous lecture, we looked at the clear distinction between technical and non-technical audiences. We understood their definition, we looked at some key characteristics, and we also did some fun exercise of figuring out how do we approach technical and non-technical audiences. Today's lecture is a deep dive into precisely that. We will look at some writing strategies and approaches for technical and non-technical audiences. We will look at some examples and do some fun reflection and exercises together. Technical writing assumes familiarity with concepts and prioritizes accuracy and depth. This is important to understand. Let's spend a minute over here. This assumption helps us connect with the audience effectively in an eventual manner. But it's a slippery slope. You can assume slightly out of accuracy as well. So how do you ensure that you assume familiarity with concepts in the right way? Frankly, there is only one way: to make mistakes and learn from it. I have done that, a lot of my colleagues have done that, a lot of my previous students of data science have also done that. They have made some miscalculations, they have made some silly mistakes in assuming what their audience might know, and then they've augmented their communication slightly mistakenly. And it's okay. We learn from these mistakes. We try to see where the gaps are. We try to see what kinds of faults we did in the logic, and we try to adjust our communication better for the next time and augment it to the right audience. So, whenever you assume familiarity with concept and prioritize accuracy and depth, try to be as true to your intuition as possible, and in case you make mistake, be kind to yourself. So when writing for a technical audience, you use precise terminology and avoid any oversimplification. I would like you to consider these two examples right in front of you right now. Example number 1. We used a method that automatically improves model performance. And example number 2. The model was trained using stochastic gradient descent with an adaptive learning rate. Take some time, read through both of these examples and think, what's the difference? Over here, you may have noticed that the first example conveys information, sure, but for a technical audience, it is slightly oversimplified. They need a little more detail. They need a little more technical jargon that they can adequately understand. So you don't need to reduce the ideas to their bare essentials. Let's look at the second example. Once again, the model was trained using stochastic gradient descent with an adaptive learning rate. Like you see, there is some jargon over here that the technical audience would efficiently understand. So the first one, despite being simple, is not suitable for the technical audience. Mind you, it is not an incorrect sentence in any way. It is just inappropriate for the desired audience. Here's the second strategy for writing for a technical audience. You include data sources, methodologies, and statistical validation. Here's an example. Our analysis used a data set of 10,000 customer interactions, cleaned for missing values and validated with a holdout test set. In this case, you include the data source, you include the methodology, and any kind of statistical validation that is relevant to your communication. At this juncture, I would also like to remind you of the discussion we had in the previous class, the difference between method and methodology. Method is what you use, and methodology is why do you use it. That distinction is important, especially for a technical audience, because they would be interested in knowing the justification for using certain kinds of methods, and they would derive a lot of value from your reasoning for using that method. Here's strategy number 3. You use a structured, logical flow. Technical readers expect detailed breakdowns with headings like methodology, findings, and limitations. Technical audiences often think in segmented fashions, so we have to adjust the format, the structure of our communication to suit their kind of intuitive thinking patterns. Therefore, headings like methodology, findings, and limitations in a sequential manner help us understand the way that they would respond to our communication. Later in the lecture, we will look at a kind of structure that is intuitive for a technical audience versus what to do when a non-technical audience expects structure out of your communication. Hang around for that. At this point, I would like you to reflect a bit on this question. Why is it important to include methodology details when writing for a technical audience? Mind you, I'm asking about methodology, not about method. So, take the discussion that we have had in the previous lecture and this lecture into account and think about this. Why is it important to include methodology details when writing for a technical audience? The point of these questions is to have a reflective moment. There is no right or wrong answer. I just want to ensure that we are thinking together about these questions and arriving at our own judgments and conclusions. The point is not to have a correct or incorrect way of looking at these problems. They are in fact not problems. They are just conditions to be mitigated within the vast and interesting realm of technical communication. So let's arrive at the writing strategies for non-technical audiences. For non-technical audiences, clarity and relevance matter more than detailed methodology. When writing for a non-technical audience, here are a few strategies that might help. Number 1, use simple, relatable language and avoid the jargon. Let's consider these two sentences as examples. Example number 1. The collaborative filtering model computes user item affinity scores using matrix factorization. Example number 2. Our recommendation system suggests products based on what similar customers have bought. The second one has no jargon, it is relatable, and it is simple. Moreover, it is applicable. It doesn't describe what the model is, it explains what the model does. That's the application difference that I'm talking about. The first example describes more about the model, while the second example describes more about its performance. And that is what the non-technical audience would be more focused on. Number 2, you focus on key takeaways and actionable insights. Consider this example. By targeting inactive users with promotional emails, we could increase sales by 20%. Not only is the recommendation clear, targeting inactive users with promotional emails, the expected outcome, the key takeaway, is also clear, increasing sales by 20%. So, you associate a value not only with the action but also with the outcome of the action. Non-technical audiences would derive a lot of value from this kind of communication in which you're making it abundantly clear not only what they need to do but what is possible as an outcome of their actions in a quantifiable way. All the examples that we have seen so far during the course of these lectures, you would have noticed that in none of these examples is the outcome ever not quantified. The outcome is always quantified with a percentage number or with a certain metric that the non-technical audience can understand. So, not only do you recommend them actionable insights, but you also give them a quantifiable outcome that the non-technical audience can both understand and derive some value from. Number 3, you use analogies and visuals to explain complex ideas. Here's an example. A machine learning model works like a personal assistant who learns your preferences over time to make better recommendations. This is an analogy. A machine learning model is not defined, mind you. The non-technical audience would not be concerned with the definition. They would understand a lot more with a comparison. An analogy is essentially a comparison. They would understand a lot more by comparing a machine learning model to a personal assistant. That comparison ensures that they can associate a complex abstract idea to a knowledge bank that they already have, a tangible concept that they already know and are familiar with. And even the explanation of a machine learning model is as clear as it could be. It learns your preferences over time to make better recommendations. So what does it do and why does it do it? These two things are clear. Why is the how not present? Take a moment, guess it. That's correct. That's because the non-technical audience is not interested in the how, as we have discussed. So the what and the why are clear because it primarily concerns their purpose, their applicability. And those are the strategies of communicating with a non-technical audience. Now, during the course of the previous lectures and this one, I have mentioned over and over that for a non-technical audience, a visual or a graphic component may be useful. We will explore that later on in detail, but I want to spend a moment to think about adjusting visuals for different audiences. Visuals enhance communication, but they must also be tailored to the audience. Because I often believe, I am of the opinion, that people don't look at visuals as something to view and glimpse. People look at visuals as something to read, because visuals also carry information. They are also carriers of data and insights. So, you have to treat it with the precision and with the same principles that we do for words. So, like we adjust our words, our vocabulary, and our concepts density according to the destined audience, we also have to adjust our visuals, our graphic component, according to the destined audience. Here's what the difference is. Technical audience might prefer detailed graphs, histograms, and complex plots with full axis labels and statistical annotations. On the other hand, the non-technical audiences benefit from simplified visuals like bar charts and infographics with direct takeaways. Now, I understand if some of this may look a little unfamiliar. If you have heard things like histograms or complex plots for the first time, let us take a moment to familiarize ourselves with what they look like. So, at this stage, I am offering you first the kind of visual communication more native to the technical audience and then for the non technical audience. So, the next slide that you see in front of you will have examples of graphs, histograms, and complex plots. And the next slide after that will be examples of simplified visuals like bar charts, pie charts, and any other kind of infographics intended for a non-technical audience. Take some time, look at them, and familiarize yourself with the visual language that is native to both technical and non-technical audiences. I'll see you right back. I hope that we have familiarized ourselves with the different visual languages of technical and non-technical audiences. Here's an example. A technical audience might receive a confusion matrix showing precision, recall, and F1 score, while a non-technical audience might see a pie chart showing the percentage of correct versus incorrect predictions. For the technical audience, who is more concerned with methodology and the precise industry jargon, they would derive a lot more value from the former example, while the non-technical audience would derive a lot more insight, information, and actionable recommendations from the second example. But I want you to reflect on something for a bit. How would you modify a detailed scatter plot to suit the accessibility of a non-technical audience? You have familiarized yourself with the visual language of both these kinds of audiences. Take a moment and think about it. How would you adjust a detailed scatter plot to suit the needs of a non-technical audience? I'll see you right back. Now we come to an important juncture in deciding the approach of communication for both the different kinds of audiences. Structuring. Mind you, this is not a format. A format is a prescription. A structure is more about the intuitive way that we understand, imbibe, and apply information. So, I would like to introduce you to two different approaches to structuring your documentation, maybe a report or a presentation for different kinds of audiences, technical and non-technical. So the structure of a report should reflect the audience's needs. For example, for a technical audience, you use a structured format: abstract, followed by introduction, followed by methodology, followed by results, followed by discussion, and conclusion. This is usually the rhythm of academic and technical writing. It is the intuitive way that we understand the flow of information if we are the technical audience. It is also otherwise known as the IMRAD format. I would request you to look this up if you are interested. The IMRAD format: introductions, methodology, results, and discussion. So, the IMRAD format is more suitable for a technical audience because they can accurately locate where the specific kind and category of information would be that they are concerned with. So, for a technical audience, the abstract, introduction, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion proves to be a rhythm in which they access, imbibe, and apply information. So, for us, when we are augmenting our communication for a technical audience, this rhythm, this structure gives us a clear direction to organize, categorize, and write the kind of information that we want to cater to a technical audience. On the other hand, for a non technical audience, we use a business oriented format. So, we begin with the executive summary, then we move on to the key insights, then the recommendation, and in the end, as an appendix, the supporting data. Because the executive summary serves as a one glance overview of the entire insight that the report contains. Then we move on to key insights, any kind of key information that has emerged from our analysis. Then we move on to the recommendations, the step by step breakdown of what is to be done, what is to be suggested as future course of action for any executive making a policy, strategy, or a decision. And then in the end, in case if they are interested, just in case if they want to double check, here's the supporting data. The technical audience would be more concerned with the data, therefore, we have pushed it up in the methodology section and the results section. But for a non technical audience, they are more concerned with what is derived out of data, what is derived out of the analysis. And therefore, if they want to, just in an off chance, if they want to check the supporting data, we keep that towards the end as an appendix, as an additional part that is just there to ensure the rigor of the analysis that has arrived at these kinds of recommendations. So, the key strategies and approaches to communicating with a technical versus a non-technical audience depends on adjusting language, detail, visual language, and structure. The technical audiences need depth and accuracy, while a non technical audience requires clarity and relevance. Understanding these different kinds of approaches and the key difference between the technical and the non technical audience helps us gain the ability to convey complex data driven insights in both professional and academic settings. In the next class, we will look at what these two different structures mean and what do each of these different components mean. What does an abstract mean? What role does methodology play? Is the result and discussion the same or are they different? What do we mean by an executive summary? What do we mean by key insights? If these are new terms for you, don't worry. In the next lecture, we will explore all of them in detail and we will look at how structured thinking helps us communicate our ideas better to both technical and non-technical audiences. Until then, stay curious, keep learning. All the best. I'll see you soon in the next class. Thank you. Namaskar.